Shout out to the YouTube audience. We love you. Shout out to the Spotify and Apple Music and iHeartRadio audience too. Downloading like crazy. What's going on with you, Coop? How you doing, bro?
Feeling the love. What's good with you?
Man, I'm good, man. We were actually talking about Ray and Ghost because we couldn't get, to the Drink Champs podcast in our previous
Mm-hmm.
show because they
Mm-hmm.
didn't make it available by the time that we did our Friday show. And
Mm-hmm.
then, just the video about that alone was really doing numbers. So we're like, yeah, man, we got to talk about this actual interview.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to everybody in the room, man. People are already saying what's up. Terminator 2 is in here, a loyal, according to Hip Hop Live tuner inner. Shout out to Michael Williams. He said, what up, Mike and Coop? All right,
What up?
man. Look, first thing I saw from the interview, and I don't know if a lot of people saw this when they were scrolling on YouTube or whatnot, is 4 hours. So that alone is intimidating.
A lot of rhetoric.
It's kind of what
it's,
we're here for. We're here to break that shit down, right?
It's a lot.
What were your thoughts about the interview, just offhand, so we could just get right into it?
There were a lot of jewels. There was a lot of stuff in there that was good. The old dirty bastard stories were probably the most touching. That was the stuff that kind of probably just resonated with me the most. I think the love that they had for him really came out, like sincerely. It was probably the most sincerest moment of the interview, in my estimation. And also, they finally gave him his flowers for what he actually meant to the group. They got into his competitive nature and desire, which I loved. I love that part. Like those are the little hip hop tidbits that you kind of like love to hear. Because for those of us that was there, it was like I told you, Mike. They went in order in terms of who had the star power on Enter the Wu-Tang. So Meth went first. Dirty went second. This is the first time you ever really hear somebody like really giving some credence to that being a thing. Like, no, Meth was number one, Dirt was number two. Dirt felt that he was number two and wanted to be number one.
Right.
Like so like stuff like that I found to be interesting and really sincere. Just how they spoke about him and his importance to the clan as a whole. So that was pretty strong, but there's a lot of stuff everywhere, Mike. That was the most touching thing to me. So I'm gonna go back to like some of the stuff that I was sending you, that that I was talking about. The whole, the other big taking point away outside of Old Dirty Bastard was the whole Staten Island thing, the whole last borough to get in the building kind of thing on the rap shit type of thing, and even go saying like the scripture, the last shall be first,
Definitely.
Because when you actually look at it, it's like, oh no, they were the last guys in, and they did take it over in a way that nobody from any other borough had ever taken over rap.
No, that's real. I want to ask the people in the room too, like, what were some of the standout moments you thought about in the interview? Joe Bro says that Delphonic story was wild.
I was about to get to that. That was my third point. Delphonic story by Ghost at the end. He got these old dudes into a shootout, Mike. Only Ghost. Only Ghost. We're thinking the same thing. Only Ghost. And he's
Ghost.
like, and Mike, and he's telling the story, and it's like, if you just like, Mike, I've met Ghost one time when I was in college about 20 years ago. This is around Supreme Clientele time. You know what I mean? He came to North Carolina A&T. Ghost is one of those guys that you can feel his energy, especially if he's Aggie. It reverberates. So when you're like, he's telling these stories, it's one of those things. It's like, unless you've ever really been in his presence, you really don't know how it resonates. He's one of those guys that can make you feel what he's feeling. Like, he does it in music, but no. Yeah, but no, that's real life shit. You know what I'm saying? So when he's telling the Delphonic story, I'm thinking about like the time that I met him and like the mood that he was in that day, and I'm like, yeah.
You know what? There's a lot to get into, and Ghost did a lot of the talking because I think it was his first time on Drink Champs, and I think Ray's third time on Drink Champs. I will give it to Noreaga and DJFN, EFN, excuse me. They did a really good job in this interview. And, I know we were talking about that offline. Like, Nori's journalism chops is, continuously getting better. You can tell he's working on it. But I did want to start from the top, though. like one of the first stories that was on there when they were talking about Hot 97 and all of that, and Hot 97 banning Wu-Tang. Just listening to that story, it made me, because I come from a radio background, for those who don't know, and Ghost is my favorite rapper, you know what I'm saying, MC. And it's just, I understood the politics of radio, right? And I didn't know it until I got into it, until I started interning in radio. Radio wasn't like, what, I was 18? And the fact that there is a station that feels like they have the audacity, the power, and everything else to ban the most important group in your city, and probably the most important group in hip-hop, period, at that time, I think that's history. Wild. That is wild. Really, off that alone, hip-hop fans shouldn't fuck with Hot 97 anymore, period. The fact that they felt like that they had to get back in the good graces of them. Like, what?
So Mike, you're not just when you're talking about them being the largest group in the city, I think you're kind of under-contextualizing.
Yeah.
This is arguably the greatest group of all time in hip-hop, and definitely the most innovative and the closest thing that we've really ever had to some true rock stars coming together in formation, being banned by our biggest station.
Or being banned by New York's biggest station. But I guess, in turn...
Well, at the time, but at the time, Hot 97 was streaming. Or at the time, I don't even know, what was it called then, Mike? What did we call it before? Like, if they were getting, you heard Hot 97, you could get access to Hot 97, even if it wasn't...
No, you're right.
It wasn't in New York.
It was syndicated.
Syndicated, there we go. It was in syndication. There we go.
And they had all kind of mixtapes out there, people shouting them out, Puff is shouting them out on the Benjamins. So the world knows who Hot 97 is. Like, Flex and Angie, they weren't just local personalities. Like, we knew them here, and we didn't even have the station. Terminator 2 says you can't just blame Hot 97. Who else can we blame?
Well, no, but here's... valid question, Mike. Who else can we blame? But I want to speak to something from the other side of that as an actual big fan at the time. You want to know something, Mike? Is like that probably hurt them in terms of their ability to expand for a while. But what I'm also going to submit to you, what they had already built up to the point that happened, that was a footnote for most of us as fans because it affected nothing at all as whether we were about to pick up a Wu-Tang project. Like Hot 97 didn't have nothing on Wu-Tang.
I think we have to look at what the climate was like in 97, right? It's funny, you sent me this article. What was the article from?
The Ringer.
The Ringer. Okay. They did an article talking about the kings and queens of New York hip-hop, and they did it year by year. And in 97, they kind of skipped that year. They said that New York was in limbo because of Big's death and all that. That may be true, but 97 belonged to Puff Daddy and Mace. You know what I'm saying? And I would give it to Mace, as a solo artist because, Harlem World dropped that year. Did No Way Out drop in 97? That was 97. Yeah.
97, yeah.
And so... that's what New York hip-hop looked like in that era, and that was super radio friendly, right? And so I think that was an easy cop-out for them to sit there and tell Wu-Tang, well, we're banning Wu-Tang, because Wu-Tang Forever didn't look or sound like that, and that was one of those things, too, while Old Dirty went up there, when Puff Daddy won the Grammy for Best Hip-Hop Album.
Right.
Yeah, because they were...
All these stories go together when you start to tell them, it makes more sense. Yeah. These aren't like arbitrary things happening with these outbursts that they're having. Ghost and Dirt in particular, obviously.
Right.
The two most explosive members in the crew.
I think Wu-Tang, if you look at 1997 and where hip-hop was going, especially New York hip-hop at the time, they didn't really fit in the lexicon of what radio wanted from hip-hop singles. Like, at that time, I think that's when Tracy Lee had Party Time out. You know what I'm saying?
The theme.
That's when, the theme. That's when Mr. Cheeks and Queen Pen, Party Ain't a Party Till It's Ran Out. Like, that's what New York hip-hop sounded like on the radio in 1997.
I believe the word is jiggy, Mike.
Yes. And you can even look at how the Locks released. Like, I know they released it. Was that 98? Money, Power, and Respect, or was that 97? That was 97.
That was 97 too,
Yeah,
if I'm not
exactly.
mistaken.
So just the way that they were presented, it lets you know what New York hip hop sounded like in 97. So I feel like it's two things, right? I don't think just what Ghost said added, is what got them quote unquote banned. I think they were looking for a reason to X what Wu-Tang was doing out, because they were doing something different. They were more lyrical than everything else. And none of that stuff they were doing was fitting into the rotation of what Hot 97 was doing.
Well, see, that's what I mean. Like, like nobody that ever came before, nothing that they did was for radio and found themselves on radio. They literally, to quote Public Enemy's album, they bum rushed the show, Mike.
They kicked in the door for real.
Right. All that radio, TV programming and media out, like they changed all that because the music was so gritty, but it was so classically undeniable. Not even radio could say no to it. Like you couldn't say no to Cream. Cream, yeah. Like, I mean, Cream didn't sound like hip hop in 1993 either, Mike, or 94.
No, you're right.
Yeah, that's when Electric Relaxation and Snoop and Dre and Cube is still running shit.
You know what 97 reminds me of? And it's funny because hip hop is one of those genres, I guess we could say, that you could capsulate like decades of sounds of other, genres in like 1 or 2 years, right? I feel like 1997 was like the disco era for hip hop or something.
Yeah, and it's like it came and it went so fast.
Yeah, and it's like how James Brown couldn't really adjust to the disco era like that because he was coming from another era of music. And
well, Mike, not to cut you off to that point, like literally, DMX happened.
Oh yeah,
he put a stop to all of that.
But that's what's great about hip hop. Like the lights can go on and off so quickly. Spliff Spark says, I got introduced to hip hop in 97. I remember. Yeah. 97 was shiny, man. It was jiggy.
Yeah. No, Mike. Like literally, DMX killed all that with Get At Me, dog. Like with the song and with the video in the tunnel and he killed all of that.
No, I mean, that was a great rollout. And I appreciate Def Jam for that. That was the only play. Because at the time,
rap needed that.
Because Jay-Z was adjusting to what was going on in 97 in the Jiggy era. He was trying to balance it out in a way that I think Biggie probably would have done it. But again, like you said, DMX came and just changed everything.
Well, really, that whole thing is Biggie's thing. That's Biggie's blueprint. That's what really what people were doing, but they weren't as talented vocally, lyrically, or just hit-making wise as Big, so you have to glitz and gloss it up to make it sound as good. When it's Big, it just sounds hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Big is a different being. He's like a LeBron James.
Yeah, he's different. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just like, like you gotta like the guys that we talking about, no, these guys are different. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to P White, sent a super chat of €5 from the UK. He said keep up excuse me, I can't even talk. Keep up the good work, my brothers. Salute from the UK. Salute to you as well. Salute. And make sure, y'all share this program so, we can all talk about this Drink Champs interview. Like, how many of y'all got through the whole 4 hours?
I did.
Yeah, it was tough. I'm going to be honest. I think I'm like 1 hour left. But
last hour's got some stunning stuff, though. So, last hour might be the best hour.
Well, tell me about it then. Go ahead.
Well, one thing that we want, that first of all, that's where Ghost is telling the Delphonics story about getting into the shootout with the Delphonics. That's like literally like at the start of the last hour, he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I got the Delphonics into a shootout. You're like, what the fuck, Ghost? Like, what? You got the and he's like, yeah, I didn't even tell Ray. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, Ghost is wild.
They even found out new stuff about each other on this.
Right. Ray over there looking like, got the Delphonics in the shootout?
He was like, I didn't know your favorite movie was Grease.
Right. When he talked about Ironman, I found that to be very striking. Like we all revere Ironman in this culture, and Ghost is he's just not a fan of Ironman. He felt like he had to make it too fast. He was like, first of all, he highlighted the fact that at the time they wasn't getting tracks from anybody else, so it was all RZA beat selection that he's going into. So he's kind of saying that from a perspective of like, well, I'm going technically clean up hitter in this lineup. A lot of beats are gone. He didn't say that, but he's talking about specifically, he's like, oh, I wasn't getting Pete Rock primo beats. So he's pretty much saying, he literally said, I took the best beats that RZA had left. So that lets you know in his psyche kind of what he's thinking. Like, I don't have no incarcerated Scarfaces. I don't have no Brooklyn Zoo. I don't have no Bring the Pain. I don't have no shadow boxing. And so there's that part of it when he's discussing it beat-wise, and he does it very carefully so that it's like you really got to be paying attention to what he's saying when he's saying that. And then he gets into where he was as a writer and explaining why he's not on Assassination Day in the Faster Blade. A lot of that was because of his health, being diagnosed with diabetes. And he was literally talking about mentally, he wanted to be in a place to do what him and Ray did on the Purple Tape, but about what he was going through personally and mentally and health-wise, he wasn't in that place. And so you have records like, All That I Got Is You. It's more personal. It's dark. He considers Ironman to be a dark album. And he's like, he's like, go listen to it. He's like, it don't hit like Ray shit was hitting. You know what I'm saying? It's not that. It's darker. It's moodier. And when you think about it, it is, Mike, because there are more records on Iron Man that have more of the rainy days feel than have more of maybe like a ice cream or incarcerated Scarface's feel. Like Fish. Like when he said that, I thought about like the beats to Fish and Cam A. And I was in Box in Hand, and I'm like, those are moodier tracks. It is kind of like a little bit more dense. It don't hit you the same. It's still classic shit to us. It's just not classic shit to Ghost.
I mean, you hear that from artists where it's like they're not really big fans of certain albums, whether they be classic or not, when they were in a dark place. It's interesting, man, maybe because of, I think Supreme Clientele is what made Ghostface super to me. Like, I've always been a fan anyway. I'm a Wu-Tang fan to the heart. And Method Man was my favorite rapper growing up. But I feel what he's saying, because Iron Man to me is not the Supreme Clientele Ghost, and it's not on a quality level. It just feels like he was in a different space. And I feel like he got better, but he's one of the few that I think he was able to elevate himself with not just getting RZA beats, working with Carlos Brody, working with Juju, and everybody else's best work is with RZA.
Right. So I think Iron Man is the reason for the stepping out of the box of Supreme Clientele, because although for me, Mike, like Iron Man beat wise is not as good as Liquid Swords or the Purple Tape, but it's more eclectic. Like, I love some of the beats on there, like Iron Maiden. Like, Iron Maiden's one of my favorite RZA beats. That's the way Iron Man kicks off. You know what I mean? And but for me too, the vibe to that is kind of Cuban linkish. You know what I'm saying? The beat isn't, but the vibe is. And so I get what Ghost is talking about. And now you understand too, because you and I have always said this. Ray's a better rapper than Ghost on Iron Man too. Well, now we're hearing why.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Well, now we're hearing why, because Ghost is literally sitting up here talking. He's like, no, I was in a fucked up headspace. I couldn't write like that. He's like, that's why you hearing Ray on the Faster Blade by itself. That's why he's like, I couldn't get on Assassination Day. He's like, I was fucked up that day. I couldn't write, And so now it's explaining even like why lyrically, because I mean, Mike, I don't know about for you, it's more poignant on Iron Man, but lyrically he seems sharper on the Purple Tape. You know
what, he does. No, I agree with that. I also, because I know when we were putting together our Wu-Tang list, right, our top 10 Wu-Tang albums, I think I was talking to you offline. My debate was Dirty Version and Iron Man, and I think I said I would listen to Dirty Version before Iron Man, but it's hard to put Dirty Version ahead of Iron Man just based on the lyrical abilities and everything that was on Iron Man. So there's something in there that I feel what he's saying. You know what I mean?
Like, how about this? Even if you just listen to Ray on Rawhide in 95 on the Dirty Version, and then listen to him a year later, like on Iron Maiden and on Daytona 500, it's like, nah, dude, that ain't the same guy. And so the lyrical capability is is taking leaps and bounds, even in just a year's time, for guys who are already lyrically on point and sharp. Mike, it's their claim to fame, and they actually got better at it. Yeah. And there's a lot of evidence of that on Iron Man. But also, too, I'll say this, too, Mike. Iron Man's the first Wu-Tang album that really doesn't totally feel like some Wu-Tang shit at moments. Ghost was the first one to kind of identify his own sound early, because when I go back and listen to Camé and All That I Got Is You and records like that now, I'm like, oh, no, that's Ghost. He was in there still. Like, that's the Ghost that we kind of know now still, you know?
You're right. All That I Got Is You doesn't sound like anything that the Wu made before that.
No, it's a total venture. But that whole album kind of is, even beat-wise, but when you hear it, it's like Ghost is telling you, he's like, oh, no, those were the beats that were left. And then, like, all the Wu-Tang shit is gone, so I just had to take the dopest beats.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. You know, another thing that I got, and I'm going to get back to, like, that last hour in a second. Go ahead.
I just want to, that makes me actually give Iron Man more credit when he's talking about that he's picking the last of the beats, kind of, and that he only has 60 days to record, and he's having writer's block. Hold on. All that was going on, and you made that?
We were just talking about adversity, you know what I'm saying?
Right, adversity matters.
Before this. Yeah.
And so
makes
now
you a greater MC.
It does. And so when you hear him on Supreme Clientele, understand that's the first time you're really getting to hear Ghost. Like, on 10.
And it's interesting because in many ways, Supreme Clientele feels like a debut solo album. And I guess I always thought that because him and Ray always shared projects.
Right. But it's all those other things that you didn't know that we know now. And now you understand why. Because, Mike, I'm like you. It's like, I think Iron Man's a classic, but for some reason, Supreme Clientele feels like Ghost's debut. Mm-hmm. It's like a coming out party, Mike, and it's rare that somebody's like, I think he's 8, 9 years in the game when he drops Supreme Clientele. Like, Into the Wu-Tang come out in 93. When does Clientele come out?
January of 2000. So, 8 years, 7 years in the game.
So he's 7 going 8 years into the game, and you're just really getting to know him, like, and who he is as an MC on his own weight. Like, you knew who Ray was, like, early.
Yeah, definitely.
And Ghost, you want to know? So let's go to that, too. When he's talking about Iron Man, he's talking about how he got his shit from Ray. He's like, no. He's like, my whole shit, like, came from Ray. I was playing off of him. He's like, Ray's cold. You'll get lost in Ray's shit. So he spoke to being lost in, like, that Cuban link chamber with Ray, and how Ray is just so vivid and so sharp that you get lost in what Ray's doing, and you want to vibe on that vibe that Ray is doing. Because I told you, Mike, like, for me, nobody embodies like that New York hip hop aesthetic more than Ray. And so I think that's what Ghost is talking about. When Ray's on point and he gets that vibe, it's hard for you not to want to catch that wave. And so there's a lot of things that were going on in the making of Iron Man in Ghost's mind that kept it from being a classic to him. So I guess for him, I don't think it really starts until, like, Supreme.
Let's rewind real quick, because you said something, and Ray is like that quintessential East Coast MC. I think he's the glue of the Wu-Tang.
They said it was dirty. That's funny. Yeah. We say it's Ray. Like, all of us think it's Ray, but they say it's dirty. And Mike, they're probably right, because the rest of their shit, it doesn't sound like Enter the Wu-Tang, and it's because Old Dirty Bastard is a prevalent member.
Definitely. No, he's kind of like the heart, like like Freaky Ty. You know what I'm saying? Because Lost Boys were never the same after Freaky Ty passed,
So did you see the part where Ghost is talking about how, like, way before the deal, Dirt was like the inspiration. He's running up them, we're the greatest group in the world. They ain't even got no deal. They ain't even really made no records, and nobody heard. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's different. I will say, after he passed, I think Ray kind of, carried the torch. Being that Wu-Tang member that would go out there and do features with people outside of the crew. I mean, even down to Tash, Outkast, and stuff like that. I want to get to that too, because I got to a part where Nori was talking about possible verses with those two. And, when Outkast's name came up, they're like, And I think that, and they said something, they said, basically, they need to be matched up with New York hip hop. And I get it, I understand it, but it's like, I guess it feels like no matter how lyrical down south MCs get. I think that there is a thing where New York MCs just feel like can't be matched up. But he did say something. Raekwon did say something I thought was interesting. He said a good matchup for Busta Rhymes would be Lil Wayne.
Mike, some of the points that they made are points that we made.
Yeah. People be watching the show.
No, I peeped that. They said a lot of things that we've said on some prior shows, but that's neither here nor there.
The Styles and Jadakiss, I think they said they wanted that, but obviously Jada has done like 2 verses, so he's out of here with that. I don't think that there's anybody else to match them up with, that's an unofficial group. Because again, I think that Dre and Big Boy aren't a great matchup because they're just an official group and their catalog is just crazy, right? But Ray and Ghost have a crazy catalog together as well.
Nas and AZ come to mind.
Do they have enough material?
See, that's the thing about it. They only have about 10 or 11 records together that I know of. And so you would find yourself having to dig to put something together. Like you would have to get off into the firm shit, affirmative action. You get what I'm saying? Like you would have to use everything that they've done together, I think, to get to a point. But in terms of a duo, the lyrical capability, the same era, that would actually be the best one. It's just Nas and A don't have enough material.
I'm interested to see, somebody said it in the chat. Why didn't like Meth and Red's name come up? Because they seem to be very similar in that light. Maybe because, same crew or whatever, but
right.
I think Meth and Red, that would be very entertaining.
That would be very entertaining. No. The entertainment factor would be high on that. They spoke to the LL Cool J Busta Rhymes thing. They spoke to the Kane Rock M thing.
Yeah, and we did a whole LL and Busta Rhymes mock versus. So yeah, I guess somebody's been seeing something.
Yeah, it got like almost 20,000 views, Mike. I think somebody's seen it.
Somebody may have come across it. Who knows? But
it's possible.
Listen, I don't think LL and Busta are a good one. We broke it down, right? LL just has super big records, and I feel what people are saying as far as the performance aspect of it with Busta Rhymes, but I think Lil Wayne's a good one. I don't think Wayne's going to do it, you know what I'm saying? But I think I've said this on shows before. I said Lil Wayne is probably the best matchup for him.
No, we have both talked about how that would be a fascinating matchup, and Lil Wayne is one of those guys that's kind of transcended a couple eras too.
Yeah.
And catalog-wise, has enough stuff to pull out to make it a fair fight, Wayne's biggest problem is what you're going to pull out.
If they actually want to do one, and, I know everybody's watching the show, we got a lot of people in the room right now, they need to just go ahead and do one with Method Man and Redman, saying, it's a Wu-Tang thing, and you got 2 artists who have a catalog of their own as individuals, and they have catalogs with each other. I think it's awesome. I think it'd be a great versus if they want to do one. I don't know about the Styles and Jada, man, because again, Styles and Jada kind of did that thing already with the Dipset.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it kind of leaves out Sheik too, and I think that's unfair that Sheik continuously gets, left out of these situations like he's not in the group. Because they don't even have a group name, Styles and Jada. You know what I mean?
Right. So that's why I'm thinking of like some unofficial duos that would probably be like a pertinent matchup. And here's the thing, and I normally don't say this, but when it comes to Ghost and Ray, because the slang is so high and so heavy on so many of their greatest stuff, a New York rapper is what makes more sense. I wouldn't necessarily I love Outkast, I love Ray and Ghost. I don't necessarily want to see that either. It's almost too conflicting. You know what I'm saying?
We just saw when we did the mock verses with Mobb Deep and Outkast, it's like on some hip hop rap shit. It feels like it's tough. Outkast is a tough matchup because of their catalog, but their diversity, it hurts them in certain hip hop matchups.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Because they don't
saying?
have because they don't have those certified classic hip hop bangers like "Give Up the Goods," "Survival of the Fittest," "Shook One's Part 2."
Like their
Yeah,
hip hop
like
shit
Quiet
is
Storm.
more isn't their bigger records, right? Like
Nah.
they have records that are so big that they dwarf their hip hop records.
No, that's
Unfortunately,
what I'm saying. Like their
yeah,
hip hop records are "Ain't No Thing," "Over the Woods." You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Yeah, their hip hop records, "Wheels of Steel." You
yeah.
know? Yeah.
Benz or Beamer, like we love
Benz or
those records,
Beamer.
but
Yeah.
when people
Those are
see
all
Outkast and think of Outkast, they're not thinking of those records. Like if we're talking about the mainstream versus audience,
right. It's like you can't, like Mike, you know how we both feel about Benz or Beamer. That's a top 5 Outcast song for me. That's a
straight
top
up,
3 for you,
yeah,
right?
yeah, straight
Top
up.
3 for you is top 5 for me. Mike, Benz or Beamer is not beating incarcerated Scarfaces.
No, it's not.
You feel
It's
me?
not.
Not in the
What
verses.
exactly is beating incarcerated Scarfaces from Cass?
I
Because
might have.
again, it
Hold
was
on,
one of
that might
those.
have been.
It was one
I
of
might have
those
been reaching with
records,
that. I
huh?
might have been reaching with the incarcerated Scarface. We talking about Ray's, masterpiece
Right,
records.
right.
So
But again, I mean, I put out elevators on you, and you beat me with something. I forgot what it was, but I'm like, really? People think this record's better than elevators? Okay.
I think it was "Give Up the Goods," Mike.
Was it Give Up the Goods? I think it
I think it was
was.
"Give Up the Goods." Yeah, I think it was "Give Up the Goods." I beat you with, but I told you, Mike. Don't know, man. I mean, Mike, Wu-Tang and Mobb Deep. They just got some classic East Coast shit that you're not beating them unless you're putting them up against each other. It's like, no, you want to "Give Up the Goods." It's like go get Triumph or Cream.
I
Or
mean,
Shadow
honestly, I
Boxing.
don't think there's anybody to match Wu-Tang up with, period. I
Mhm.
know Nori said the Dungeon Family, which I think is
I
really
like that he
dope that he
said that.
said that. I like that
Yeah.
he said that.
I thought it was dope that he said that. So can we say something about Nori right quick? Because you already said it. I can't think of an interview that he gave that was better than this one.
No, me either.
In terms of him, like you said, as an actual media journalist, because even his stories where he was interrupting, he was kind of tying and looping it back in, like he reeled them, like the Biggie snippet that everybody's been playing. Like, well, when you watch the interview, it's like Nori actually fed and baited them into the Biggie conversation like a real astute journalist does. He didn't just start off by like, yo, what's up with that purple tape skit shit,
Right.
Like he didn't hit him like that. He actually told a story about him being with C's and Big. And he kind of, even Ghost was like, yo, he's like, I seen what you did right there. Ghost is like calling him out on it, be like, oh, I seen what you did, how you pulled that together. Even EFN is like, yo, I didn't know what he was doing till he like came with it. So like Nori's like stepped his chops up.
People are listening to us. Great interview, though.
That's neither here nor there, but he is doing a nice
No,
job.
it's great for hip hop,
transitioning.
man. It's great for
Right.
hip
It's
hop.
no. So that's why I was about to say it's great when you can see somebody who was a rap star that kind of became a media personality that is actually like, what I like to call building up his journalistic integrity in his new field. And it's just it was a dope watch because of that. You know what I mean? Because I'm like you, Mike. Sometimes his sidebar conversations, I'm like, Nori. But no, this was dope.
Yeah.
His stories made sense. They tied back into the shit Ray and Ghost was on.
Don says Wu-Tang versus NWA. I like that.
I don't like that for NWA.
You don't? We spin it off, or we do some Dre shit. We do some Cube shit. Why not? No.
You can do Dre.
If we could do some Dre shit and Cube shit, just like they can do some Ray shit and some Ghost shit, yeah, I like that. I like that for NWA.
It's better. They still gonna lose though, Mike. Because they got meth shit, they got Ray shit, they got Ghost shit. Like meth, Ray and Ghost shit is enough to beat almost any crew or collective that you want to go get.
No,
like,
real shit.
Real shit.
Lex P, what up, Lex P? He said, "Hey, Mike, we're gonna talk about that LeBron fight." Nah,
I didn't watch the clip. Was it a fight?
No, it was an elbow. It was a alleged cheap shot, and Isaiah.
Was it a cheap shot?
Alleged cheap shot. When players get older, they start doing a little. They change up their game. We saw it with Kevin Garnett.
No, Kevin Garnett was always like that.
He kind of became slight dirty in his older age, and I like Boston.
No, I'm a big KG fan.
All right. Well, what I saw was, he elbowed the guy. He felt like it was a cheap shot. His eyes was bleeding. He was ready to fight LeBron. LeBron wasn't ready to fight him, and everybody was pulling him off. And he acted like he was cool, like he was gonna go back to the locker room, and he rushed again. And so, it's I haven't really done a lot of research today on the aftermath of it, but LeBron got ejected. That's what kind of, put my antennas up. I don't think I've ever remembered LeBron ever getting ejected from a game in his 19-year career.
Just men of his age, shouldn't be fighting.
Yeah. Don said cheap
age,
shot for real.
Our age, same age bracket, yeah.
It said cheap shot for real. Said sad for LeBron. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get suspended, but it was a flagrant 2 off the rip. I don't remember Jordan ever getting ejected from the game. I remember when he got in that fight with Reggie Miller. They ejected Reggie Miller.
Here's what I'll say to that. He's been pretty flawless as any major superstar has ever been. So
yeah. I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to watch Skip Bayless's coverage on it because he was tweeting, and I'm sure some of y'all out there probably saw it this morning on with Skip and Shannon. But yeah, he was tweeting last night. It's like I can't wait for tomorrow. So, but anyway, we can probably talk about that next show or whatever when I do a little bit more research on it. But it looked wild, man. Dude was bleeding like crazy, man, and he was ready to put hands on LeBron. I mean, he's 20 years old. He don't give a fuck.
Right. It's like going to fight your uncle or your daddy,
though. It happens, right? But anyway, speaking of which, uncle, daddy, all that, pause. I think he was really light on Action Bronson.
You want to know what? Ghost has grown a lot, too. And so, one thing is, and this is what I mean, like, Ray has been such a statesman and such a representative. It's almost like you could feel Ray like playing the back the whole time and really letting Ghost talk. Like, yeah, I've been here, I've done that. Everybody know how I feel about everything. Like, go ahead and talk, Ghost.
Well, I mean, again, with the Action Bronson thing, I don't mean to cut you off, but I feel like he deduced it down to the guy's voice sounding like him. And I think it was more than that. Me as a hip-hop fan, as a Ghost fan, I could never really rock with Action Bronson's music because he was saying like the same words that Ghost would say and saying phrases. It wasn't even just the voice. Like, he like, it's me and stuff like that. Like, nah, man.
Yeah,
That's stuff you can help. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
you can't help the tone of your voice.
Real talk, I got the impression that Ghost ain't even really listening to his catalog like that. You feel me?
Right.
I got the impression that it's like he's probably maybe heard 10 joints.
I think Ghost he wasn't even trying to throw a cheap shot at him. I think he legit thought it was him. Because he said the way it kind of came about, he was, heard something. It was on a feature. He was like, when did I do that feature? Like, I don't even remember doing that. Because when you got like a lot of verses out there, you don't really know. Like, I think people think that in this game, people go in there and just collab with people. But he probably had a bunch of verses floating out there, as we've seen with that $1 Million Wu-Tang album. These guys don't know where those verses came from. They just know they went into sessions, did them, and they pieced it together and put it on the album. I think he legit thought that was him for a second. It might have made a joke about it, but that was it.
I mean, so I remember one time Ice Cube did an interview, and it might have been with Big Boy's Neighborhood out there in L.A., and they was asking, I think they were talking about, like, their favorite song off America's Most, and they were asking Cube to rap it, and Cube was like, he's like, I'm not even sure if I remember that shit.
Exactly. Do people understand, like, first of all, how long ago that stuff was?
He's like, no, he said it. He's like, dude, he's like, I wrote that in like 1989, 90. He's like, I don't even remember exact year I wrote it.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember even the great Jay-Z, and we know he is heralded for his incredible memory, his ability to, just basically write in his mind and then go out there and spit it out. He said he had to go back when they were doing that Reasonable Doubt anniversary show. He said he had to go back and listen to those songs and relearn them, some of them. And that's
Right.
reasonable doubt. So,
Right.
you know.
Jay probably not riding around listening to Can I Live and Regrets anymore, though. You know what I mean? That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
Niggas want my old shit. Buy my old albums.
I mean, you know, when the first couple lines come in, you might remember then. But again, these guys have done so much work. They've been in the game so long. And they've done so many other things outside of music. Like, Ice Cube's had to memorize full out lines in movies and films and shit like that. So he might forget a song or two.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, as far as the whole, you know, sounding like somebody, I just, you know, I saw it when it happened. He was on Max Kellerman's show. What show was that with him and Marcellus Wiley?
Good Friday afternoon. Friday.
It was something.
Drive. Something. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Let us know in the chat. We'll, you know, get it right. But yeah, he was on that show, and I was watching it, and I saw it when it happened. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a problem, because he was like, yeah, Ghost don't do it like this anymore, or something he said like that. And I'm like, wow, that's hella disrespectful for somebody that, let's keep it real, you took their style. This ain't by chance and nothing like that. Like, I'll give Sean that whole I kind of sound like Young Biggie. That's a by chance thing, but Gorilla Black's not a by chance thing. Like, you out here talking about put the potato on the barrel. That's intentional. You know what I mean? That's different. And that's what Action Bronson was doing.
I mean, I was never a big fan just because I'm such a big Ghost fan. I'm like, yo, niggas sound like Ghost. Next.
Right. I mean, I just couldn't do it. And I know there's a lot of West Side Gun comparisons with Ghost. And I guess as a Ghost fan, I just don't hear it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe because the flow isn't there. Vocal tone is one thing, but the flow and all that stuff. Like, even he said that, you know, Doom has some of his flow patterns. But, I mean, I never really got that because Doom's tone is different and he has his own spin on it.
Right.
So yeah, there's ways to be influenced by somebody, or, you know, your voice sounding like somebody and not sound like them. Like, I've been told that my voice sounds like Ludacris or Common's voice. But, you know, if I rap, I'm not going to be out there rapping like them. Like, you know what I'm saying?
You know, your rap voice was more like Andre's, if memory serves, Mike. That's who we used to compare you to when you did rap.
See, there we go, gassing me up for the public. There we go.
No, I'm just telling you, you know how we used to talk. I mean, we all used to talk about each other when we heard each other's shit. You know what I'm saying? Be like, yo, right. We used to be like, yo, they sound like Young Cass.
Yeah.
Be like, Mike be sounding like Dre sometime.
I think that worked against us at the time.
Just time, man.
But, you know, I wasn't going to come out there like, welcome to Atlanta, jacking hammers and bows, back to the back of them, jacking the clothes, adolescents packing the phone. It's like, when your voice already sounds similar to somebody, don't be saying the same words they say. And that was my thing with Action Bronson.
Don't take their vocabulary.
Exactly.
And I'm glad that you brought that up. You know, so the most fascinating, when they was asking to pick them, did you see that part? Did you get to that part?
Yeah, I got to that part.
What do you think the most fascinating pick 'em was?
I need to be I didn't understand how they were confused with, or not confused, but it was kind of like a wash between Mobb Deep and M.O.P.
And with Nas and with Jay, those were very political answers.
You know what? I stopped right there. What was the Nas and Jay thing like?
They washed it.
Oh, come on.
Right. But hold on, but Mike, during the whole, this is what I mean. I'm like, what are y'all doing? The whole interview, and this is something, I mean, this is fascinating for somebody that's, you know, that's never been there and really doesn't know like how it works jumping from borough to borough. He's like, yeah, you can get to Queens in 20 minutes from Staten Island. I'm like,
that's crazy.
That makes the Nas thing make sense, because they're talking about Nas, like halftime Nas, live at the barbecue Nas, as in that's how long they've known that guy. And they're talking about 6 songs that they heard. You know, they was like, they had heard some shit, but then they had heard the tape with like 6 songs on it, which I'm pretty certain was probably the first like bootleg version of the Illmatic, most likely. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so for them to revere him like that, know him personally, they even talk about how, like, when they was bringing Nas around the clan for the first time, it wasn't all, you know, gravy, because niggas was like, that's Ray and Ghost dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, knowing that that's Nas and still being that way, that's just how street shit goes sometimes. And so for them to have these relationships, these stories, for them to say Illmatic's better than Ready to Die, and then get to the Nas and Jay thing and be like, oh, that's a wash. And then Ghost gets into this whole story where he's talking about how he used to call Jay his boss because Jay used to run Def Jam, obviously, when Ghost was there, and put out Fish Scale and a couple other projects. And I'm like, man, he didn't ask y'all all that. That was the only time that I was kind of like, he didn't ask you about, like, when Jay was your boss, he asked you Jay or Nas, and we talking some MC shit. So what are you talking about bringing up when Jay running Def Jam? Listen. And this is from a dude that you and I love, Mike. Like, we love Ghost. Like, we don't just think it's fair to say we don't just like Ghost, Mike. We love Ghost. And I was disappointed when he did that.
That is disappointing. It was another part as a fan, and I'm going to get back to that. But I was just talking to my guy, Damaris, man. Shout out to Damaris in Chicago. And, we kind of linked. Man, I met Damaris when I was like 18 or whatever. We linked because we were Ghostface fans, right? And I feel like when you meet a Ghostface fan, it's like you instantly are friends. Like, it's crazy, like, because...
Like, you love Ghost? Yes.
Exactly, because we all hear this vocabulary and we're trying to decipher it. And me and Damaris were talking about this point in the interview when he was like, basically telling us a lot of that stuff didn't mean anything. And It's like, no, nigga, it meant something to us.
No. See, but here's what he was saying. So I want to go to something right quick, because you're bringing up how Ghost is putting words together on Clientele, right? Mm-hmm. So the most fascinating pick'em to me was actually the Genius versus Deck.
I was going to go there. I saw that, yeah.
Because they were stuck. Sincerely stuck.
I think they were trying to be political again. I think they knew, just like we know that listen, as fans, we know Nas is their pick. We know Jizz is their pick. But they didn't want to shit on Deck. They wanted to give Deck his props, as he's well deserved. Because he is one of the best starters of records ever.
Might be the best. Like that was a very telling point. But, and you're right. I think they gave Deck his flowers, because here's the thing, Mike. If you want to give the Jizza some flowers, go put Liquid Swords on.
Exactly. Because even outside of all the mythical stories they have about Jizza and everything he means to the clan, he has Liquid Swords. So even if that wasn't even in existence, Liquid Swords alone, Deck can't compete with that. And
Mike, very few lyricists can compete with Liquid Swords, Mike.
Yeah, like, what I got from this,
it's a better lyrical effort than Capital Punishment by Big Pun. That's how good Liquid Swords is.
I agree. What I kind of got from this, and I was like, you know what? I want to see this. And since we put stuff in the atmosphere, and a lot of times it happens, I would love to see a Jizza documentary. Like, just Jizza. Because he's kind of like... brother. And I know that... they're doing the Hulu series, and I think that's cool. Biopics are cool. I like documentaries more.
Me too.
But yes, I would like to see a documentary on the Jizza, because everything revolves around him. Everything. It
does. Like Mike, when they were talking about him, like, that's how everybody talked about, like, Rakim in '88.
Exactly. And they were talking about the fact that this guy is as good as Kane in these guys, and I know it, and I know him.
Mike, what did I tell you? I told you lyrically, from a top-notch lyricist, the only people lyrically that could create something as an intelligent and as dense as Liquid Swords is Rakim and Nas, Mike, as in literally nobody else is going to give you a project that lyrically dense and entertaining and still classic as a lyricist, except for those two guys. So that's where he is as a lyricist.
I mean, even when Ray said, this man's rapping about animals.
Animals. He's like, you can't fuck with a nigga that raps about animals. And then I thought about it, and he's like, and I'm thinking to myself, you're right.
Veganism. Guys, like, I think Nas is
Nas,
the only one
that's
it.
That's why Ghost said I would have loved to hear him and Nas together. So, Mike, I'm going to tell you some, like, real, like, hip-hop head shit. One of my first real hip-hop head moments, Mike. Always wanted to hear New York State of Mind, the vocals to New York State of Mind, over the Killer Hills 10304 beat.
Oh
because
yeah.
their styles are both so dense and so intricate. I feel like you could fit a lot of their patterns into the same beat structures. So you could put their shit on each other's shit.
You know what? That's one of the collaborations that, because a lot of the times we talk about these dream collaborations. Like, I wish Rakim was on Only Built for Cuban Links. You know what song I'm talking about? Glaciers of Ice. Yes. And I wish Ghostface could have made it on Skew It on the Barbie or whatever. But GZA and Nas, I would love that collaboration right now in 2021, 2022.
Anytime, Mike.
Anytime. Do it.
Right. So when you go, so let's go to the tracks where Ray is talking about how, like, because it's just not Animal Planet. He also has labels and publicity.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you listen to how he forms his word together, it's like, no. Nas the only other nigga I ever heard that can do something like that.
No, that's real shit.
And it's real
the
shit.
only thing
so that's where he is. So when you're doing stuff,
he's not as flashy as most of the lyricists that we hold high. But if we talk about bar for bar,
he's not as flashy as Rakim either, Mike. But that's what I'm saying. When you talking about a guy that can literally only do things that Nas can do on the mic, what does that say about him? And this is the guy they're learning from. And so when you start looking at how nice they keep going, it's like, well, look at who fundamentally they had to spin off of.
Even little shit like before I blast the mic, RZA scratch off the cereal.
The cereal?
That's crazy.
Crazy.
That's Rakim shit. And you know what I'm saying? Like
Mike, unbalanced like elephants and ants on seesaws. That's Rakim shit.
That's Rakim shit. Two advanced digi-stands made the CD enhanced. I move with the speed and strength of ants.
Like, yeah. Herbal vapors and biblical papers, smoking exodus.
Yeah.
It's Nas. That's some Nas shit.
It's crazy. Yeah, I would love to see a GZA documentary, and I would love to put it together. Whatever. I don't care who puts it together.
He's teaching like what? He's teaching like physics at Harvard or something.
Something. But, I would still love a GZA and Nas and shit. Throw Rakim in there, too, collaboration.
Yeah. I mean, put Thought on there. Go ahead and make it. Those are my 4 favorite lyricists.
I love Thought. I think Thought's just a beast on the mic. But lyrically, I don't. I mean, I couldn't quote stuff like what I just quoted from GZA. Like,
no, Thought got stuff like I'm an ocean. Thought I'm an ocean without a coast going back to Cali. Like, he thinks different, but he's got bars on that level.
Oh, yeah.
Like where the metaphors and the play comes together, Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, when we're kids listening to, let's just say shadowboxing again, because Meth is so flashy on there. And then you hear GZA's verse, it's like, this is a dope verse. But then you hear it years later, and you hear it as an adult, you're like, whoa.
Mike. Amplified sample through vacuum tube compression.
I mean,
that's Rakim.
Yeah. And he stood on his square every time he got in these collaborations with these flashy MCs. Like, these are all-time great MCs. Meth, Ghost. And even if you look at like older gods, you know what I'm saying? Like,
love older gods.
Yeah. Like, Ghost comes in there crazy. I flow like a bat out of hell. Evil acapels, fly spitting out of my grill. And it's like, he stands on his square every time.
What that shit Ghost say on there? We like Dorothy Hamill on ice. We might circle. It's like, did this nigga just bring up a figure skater in a bar? A figure skater from the 60s, Mike. Dorothy Hamill's the first figure skater for the U.S. to ever win gold for the women. I think it's like 1960, 1964. This is Ghost in 97.
They educate, man. Wu-Tang is for the kids, man. But yeah, I would love to see. That's what I kind of got from this too, man. When they were talking about the origin stories with, GZA, he has one of the more interesting origin stories that people don't talk about as much.
And he's from Brooklyn, Mike. We've known that, and he references it on Liquid Swords. But it's like, so you can see he bought that hip hop feel to them that maybe they were missing from being out there at Staten Island. It's a little disconnected.
He's a veteran, and he taught RZA how to rhyme, which is an incredible feat.
Mike, and he wrote most of Return to the 36 Chambers.
He did.
For Dirt.
One of my favorite records. And it's crazy because that's probably the most entertaining, you know what I'm saying, solo effort from the Wu.
No, it's not as entertaining as Supreme Clientele, but I get
Well,
you.
I mean, of that first batch.
Yeah, the first batch.
Of that first batch.
Clearly the most entertaining album of the first batch. It's dirty.
What did he write on there?
I mean, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, there's like 17 songs in there. I think he penned like 11 or 12, like Snakes, like all the lyrical shit on there is Jizza. All the wild shit is dirty. So pretty much like the classic dirty shit, Dirty wrote, but all the lyrical things about that album together is Jizza. So it's like Dirty wrote Shimmy Shimmy Y'all, Baby Come On, Brooklyn Zoo, and some other stuff, but most of that shit is Jizza. At least half, Mike.
Speaking of ghostwriting, man, I went back in the comment section of one of our previous episodes when we were talking about hardcore. Like, somebody, came in there and was roasting me. It's like, yo, you ain't heard none of the reference tracks. There's only one reference track out there. Big didn't write this for her. Yada yada.
Mike,
I don't know how true that is, but
Mike,
it is what it is.
Mike, their perspectives on that album that just only a woman can express articulately the way that she did, nasty or not. You know what I'm saying? It's
he
just
said
like
that Big helped her with the flow and all that stuff.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He was a coach. He Phil Jackson on there. No. She Kobe on that album. She out there shooting in the gym.
That's impressive on both of their, on both of their levels. But I will say this, and I think they said this in the comment too. I think Kim's career is proven after Big's, passing or murder, that she did have a lot to do with it.
That's the proof.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's the proof. No, the proof.
Because it wasn't like she fell off a cliff. Yeah.
No. I mean, Mike, she had bangers, like, all the way up to La Bella Mafia. I told you, I like the Notorious K.I.M. because it's the proof that she was a dope-ass MC, no Biggie involved.
I bought the album, actually.
I did too, Mike. It's a dope album, too.
I like La Bella Mafia, too. She had some joints on there, like the song with Styles P, Get in Touch With Us.
Yeah. I like the production on La Bella Mafia better. I like Kim better on Notorious K.I.M. Even the Hold On joint with Mary J. Blige, like, there's stuff on there. It's like, no, that's Kim.
Fuck that. You niggas don't deserve to rap. I'm back. And I'm about to murder cats. Yeah, that was hard effort. But yeah, all right, let's get back to this Ghost and Ray thing. Yeah. So what were some more things that happened in that, final hour? Because, again, I got cut off right around the Jay and Nas portion. So what else did I miss?
I mean, it was a lot, so I'm just going to try to, like backlog it in my mind right quick. A lot of it was Ghost just talking about the Ironman thing.
Uh-huh.
They spent some time, Nori kind of transitioned with this too, because obviously he had just had Ye there. They spent some time at the end talking about, some of the same things Ye was talking about. Nori even said, he's like, Ye said some crazy shit. He's like, but Ye also said some really solid things about this community development. So one of the things that they spoke to, Mike, and it's funny, Mike, this is what I mean. You and I have been having this conversation for years. Oh, well, hip hop, these guys need a pension. They need a fund. They need something to take care of their community. So there was about a 20-minute dialogue that I don't even think was planned in that last hour where they just started riffing into that spear. You know what I'm saying? And just talking about, Nori literally said it, reparations. You know what I'm saying? Like literally taking care of those. He's like, he said hip hop's very similar to boxing, in terms of how they treat their performers, you know what I'm saying, is in not very well as opposed to other, leagues that are sanctioned and unionized like Major League Baseball. And so they were really speaking to having, guess what, a hip hop union,
Is that more of a music industry problem or is it specific to hip hop? And I'm just asking.
That's a fascinating question. We would have to delve more outside of this genre and see what the fruit of that looks like, is what I would tell you, because I can't give you a clear-cut answer right now off the top of my head. But we know it's very real in the community. Mike, I can remember them early Nas and Big interviews where they was talking about rappers that they loved, like being fucked up in the pocket when they seen them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's
Yeah. So they bought up Scarface's kidney operation, Mike. And Nori was saying like, why Face, son got to give him a kidney, and here's why he said it like that. He's like, of course that's his son, and he's gonna give it to him. He's like, but Scarface gave his whole life to this hip hop community. He's like, how many classic albums Scarface got? He's like, how much is he giving to this community? He was like, the kidney didn't need to come from his son. It needed to come from, he literally said it needed to come from, he named some guy in Nashville that, like, you know, it's like, yo, Space saved me, or Ghetto Boys got me through it. And so they were speaking to a bigger vision and mission to what hip hop is meant and what it could mean. And also to like taking care of those that have kind of like taking this to the stratosphere that it currently is, which is, you know, a very, very big monetary industry in a lot of ways. And so he's saying, you know, that guys like this, like, you know, if you played in the league for X amount of time, like, you deserve a check.
Well, all right. Let me unpack a little bit of that.
Yep. I already know where some we've been having this conversation behind the scenes for a while. So go ahead and go.
If we're talking about a league, right, and we're talking about the NBA specifically, because we do a lot of NBA and hip hop references and, you know, cross references and whatnot. The NBA is the one that handles that, right? So in the grand scheme of things, they're asking for the record labels to set certain things aside for artists that were previously signed and whose catalog that they're still, I guess, generating income from. Mm-hmm. Is that who this is supposed to, you know what I'm saying, who's supposed to take care of that? Or are we talking about, which it seems like a lot of this seems to go to, are we talking about the heavy-hitting individuals in hip-hop like the Kanyes, the Swiss Beats, the Jay-Z's?
No, Mike,
again, this goes to that whole Travis Scott conversation, too. Because I don't think it's the individual's issue. I think that's more of the labels.
So I'm going to bring up one thing Ghost brought up, and I'm going to bring up one thing that Nori brought up. Ghost brought up, he asked Nori, he's like, how many rappers are there right now? Like, you know, doing this right now. Nori's joking. He's like, too many. You know, he's like, really? He's like 2.5 million. He's like, okay. He's like, so let's say it's 2.5 million. He's like, how many of them is like, you know, in the industry? Nori, like 100,000. He's like, but take that 2.5 million. He's like, everybody come off $1 a month.
I'm looking at this from another way, though.
No,
why is it no? Why is it the label coming off of $1 a month for every artist that they have? They're the ones that are providing the money.
See, but they're already speaking from the perspective of guys that have been in the industry their whole careers, and that's not even a realistic, viable possibility too. So I get what you're speaking to.
The only reason why I say this is because these labels have created these old school hip hop stations, which are rackets for old ass catalogs that they are generating money from, and that money is going back to them. And they're making money off of the, you know, the Warren G's out here or whatever. And I'm just saying, for example, like they want to call these stations, these, you know, they're calling them old school hip hop stations. But when, you know, Snoop Dogg just released something, they're not playing any of that. They're just playing his old catalog because somebody else owns it. And if they want to do those things, they need to be held accountable and make sure that those artists whose old catalogs that they're continuously generating money off of are taken care of in that way. I don't think that's a current artist's issue.
So, Mike,
you know what I mean?
No. I get what you're saying. First of all, it is an artist issue now because what Ghost is speaking to is, hey, you putting this $1 up today is like helping Grandmaster Caz. But one day you're going to be Grandmaster Caz's age, and there's going to be another young brother your age. You get what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
And so the cycle has to start somewhere, for one. And so I'm going to go to what Nori said right quick. He said he's had this conversation with a lot of higher ups in the music business, and they're all for it. It's just nobody wants to lead it, which is very problematic.
What does that even mean? Like, name some names. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you mean they're all for it, but nobody wants to lead it?
I'm just going to highlight it because I think it speaks on a macro level to an issue that we have in this community about, you know, like everybody claims to be a king and claims to be a leader until it's really time for that shit to show, like when the rubber meets the road, so to speak. Yeah. And so when he said that, it struck me as like a community problem that we're still having, for one. But
Well, it needs
Also,
to be more of a collective thing, right? It doesn't.
right?
We don't need to depend on
No,
Jay-Z or Kanye or Swiss Beats to solve all of our problems. And
right,
for him to
right.
say nobody wants to lead it, well, everybody lead it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why Ghost was saying, no, no, no. These 2.5 million rappers, everybody put $1 up and have an equal say so in it. But here's what I'm going to submit to you when you speak to why isn't the record label doing this? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because we haven't forced them to.
Exactly.
But,
And I agree with that. But that's a collective issue.
So let's go to the deeper root of why that hasn't happened. In order for that to happen, there needs to be more education. There needs to be more resources. There needs to be more finance. And so what Ghost is speaking to does actually help take care of some of that, because we can't fight them and force their hand when we're not whole. It needs to be unionized and organized to some sort of degree to get those things that we deserve that you're talking about. And there's historical proof of that in this community all around the world.
Well, Lynn in the chat says something that I want to highlight. She says rappers need to pay into an insurance/social security plan like the normal population. And I agree with that. Is that even an option? And again, you also have to think about the fact that a lot of these MCs out here have never had any real jobs, right? In their life.
Hey, Mike, I mean, so I'm just going to and I don't try not to share too much personal stuff. I know we talk about my daughter's son, but it's more in the sphere of what we talk about musically in our back and forth in the 25-year gap between my daughter and now. But Mike, I just got my life insurance license, Mike. And quite frankly, thank you. I've been telling a lot of my friends, quite frankly, it's like, don't tell me that you can't afford to do this, because I know what you spend on weed and liquor a month.
Right. It's a priority thing. And and that's kind of where I was going to when we're talking about the younger artists, because you want to sit here and preach to them that this is a priority. They out here living it up. They turning up. They ain't trying to think about when they Grandmaster Cass age. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying the name. You know what I mean? But not to put anybody out there, but I'm just saying.
No, Mike. Mike. It'll be 2 years this December, but almost 2 years ago, Matt, the Yardies, Chris, the younger brother, his birthday and my younger sister's birthday is literally a day apart. We all went out to a very prominent after-hour spot together to celebrate their birthdays. The most famous clique in this city was in there. And Mike, I mean, the money these young boys was literally tossing up in the air. Yeah. They were tossing houses in the air.
All kind of life insurance plans.
Mike, generations worth of life insurance.
That's what I'm saying. Like, again, this is the thing, man. And I understand it, and I think it's 100% right. But we're talking about a culture that basically thrives on a mainstream level about speaking about wasteful financial behavior, irresponsible financial behavior, investing in all kind of stuff that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And all of a sudden, when you get to a certain point, you want everybody to jump up and be responsible. We haven't planted that seed collectively in the culture of hip hop,
See, that's not a hip hop thing. That's why when Nori said that, I said, well, that's a community issue. So I want to speak to a quick story, Mike. I had the pleasure of taking care of Michael Jordan a couple of times when I was in my mid-20s. And one time, Michael Jordan came into my establishment with a party of his family and some close friends. Mm-hmm. Charles Oakley was probably the only other famous person that was there. I got some Charles Oakley.
Yeah.
I got some Charles Oakley stories. Me and Charles Oakley have had a couple of run-ins, and I'm probably one of the few people that's not like 7 feet that's living to tell about it. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, Charles is not to be fucked with. But everybody found out that Mike was in town. And when I mean everybody found out, the Dolphins were in town for a football game. The Hawks, the Joe Johnson, Josh Smith Hawks had just got done losing yet another home game. And so before we know it, our spot was littered with entertainers and stars and ball players and stuff, Mike. I mean, it literally, like to quote my father, it looked like a big ass hustlers convention. But I'm gonna tell you what my takeaway was. You had all these young dudes wearing all these jewels. I'm not going to say who the running back for the Dolphins at the time. Oh, he was probably wearing about 300 worth of ice on his neck alone, Mike. They ain't counting like the wrist and the bracelet. And I'm looking over there at Mike. Mike is over there in loafers, jeans, and a lambskin coat and a Yachtmaster Rolex in the same damn hoop ring. And I'm looking at all these dudes, they wearing like $1 million worth of jewelry. I'm thinking, Mike got on a lambskin coat and a Yachtmaster Rolex. And that's the only reason you would know he had money if his name wasn't Michael Jordan.
Well, see, again,
real money quiet.
Yeah.
Real money quiet, Mike. Like, most of them dudes probably didn't even know that was a Yachtmaster Rolex. I knew because I like watches. I know my watch shit.
Right.
Real money quiet, man.
I mean, I hate to say it like this, and we suffer from a lot of this in our culture and hip hop. People want to appear bigger than they actually are, and we put ourselves in the red to do so.
Right,
and
Mike. There was only one billionaire in the room, Mike. He wasn't wearing $500,000 worth of ice.
He doesn't need to. He's who he is.
Mm-hmm. My name is my name.
He's Michael Jordan. Like, I don't have to prove anything to anybody.
But Mike, what I'm saying is that, like, even if you look at him in his younger days, it's like Mike wore a couple of gold chains, but it was never like that. Real money's quiet.
Well, I mean, to a bigger and to kind of pull this back into our conversation, right? When we talk about these music executives, and again, when issues like that in our community that affect the actual artists, the names that come up are always, again, Jay, Dre, Puff, now Kanye.
Russell,
but what
Master
about
P, Jay Prince? Yeah, same
Yeah,
names.
But what about
Same names, yeah. It's been the same name since we were teenagers, Mike.
Right. But what about, some of those other executives who are over them that no one even knows? No one even talks about Doug Morrison and what he has to, offer, or what he should be offering.
You want Sylvia Rhone and Clive and Jimmy and all those guys.
No one ever mentions them.
Leor.
They not walking around here with no ice. They're not spitting out no champagne and shit and pouring out champagne because they don't have to. But to correlate that to your, Jordan story, it's the same thing. It's like we always go to the flashier parts of hip hop, but the people who are making the most off of hip hop, those are the people that we need to be holding accountable for these type of programs. I mean, that's just what it is. The New York Cohens of the world.
Hold on. And so that goes back to how you started with the Hot 9-7 thing. For who Wu-Tang was at the time, why didn't some power players step in for them?
I mean, he credited Steve Rifkin for, I guess making that connection and, them changing their format for Wu-Tang. Where's Steve Rifkin in this conversation? You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying, Mike. When people they changed their format to let Wu-Tang on the radio, no, you didn't have a choice. That shit was too dope to deny. How you gonna keep the hottest thing in the streets that are literally in the streets of your city from the radio? You can't do that.
Who's the ghost, no pun intended, at Hot 9-7 that actually could press the button and say Wu-Tang is banned? We're not playing any more Wu-Tang. Who is that individual?
We need to find that.
Because it ain't no damn meeting or something that they had collectively with Flex and Angie respectfully. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't them sitting there like, yo, we gonna ban Wu-Tang. It wasn't them.
I mean, they pander to a lot too, but I get what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? No, it wasn't them. They're not making decisions like that. Ebro wasn't there, and I love Ebro. I think Ebro is great at what he does, but he's not the person pressing the button.
Mike, they're not making decisions.
Yeah.
Just like, star ball players for teams oftentimes don't make decisions, but influencing the conversation, and you're definitely swinging by those people asking them questions. Like, you're not bringing nobody like LeBron and Kevin Durant may not be going out there and signing the players, but you ain't bringing no players on that team without running them by there. Ain't nobody running through the studio without flexing and come on.
I don't know.
You think so? You think they just popping in on Flex and Angie 30 minutes before the show? We don't play Wu-Tang anymore, nigga.
What they gonna do? They write the checks. Especially in 97. It's not like they could go to the internet. What they gonna do? You gonna run the TV? We own that too.
Make a valid point when you say that. I'm just
saying. I mean,
no, you make a valid point.
I remember what it was like in radio. You play what we tell you to play.
Right. So I never liked radio.
Exactly. But yeah, and it's kind of like in the sports world. I mean, obviously, LeBron is a special case, but I remember, I think when the pandemic hit, and they were talking about, damn, what's his name? Zion, right? They were saying that he was paying for the staff and the people who had lost out on income or whatever. And I'm like, he's the player. What is the owner doing? Why does he have to do this?
Yeah.
He's an employee, and we fall into that over and over. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say that those rappers shouldn't do this, but no, they can do that in the meantime. But they need to be putting some smoke on the people who are actually cashing in on the culture for real, for real.
They do, Mike, but just maybe I've just been black and in America too long, Mike. I'm just being realistic about what it really is. And so we have to take care of self, although everything that you're saying is valid. We just have to take care of self, Mike. I'm going to say this again. We have over 400 years of examples and experiences in this situation as well, because I said the same exact thing about a different topic, to say that that's probably not going to happen, so we need to take care of ourselves.
I think we have more power than we think we do, right? Like, I think that
absolutely,
if they stop performing, and kind of like what Chuck D was talking about, right? If everybody gets on a unified front like a union does, like when I remember the actors union, right? They all got on the same page and said, look, we're not doing this, this, and this until these numbers are right. You remember when the referees did that in the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the referees was like, look. And then they tried to replace them with replacement referees, and the games were terrible. And they're like, you know what? Well, we got to pay these guys. And that's all it takes is for everybody to get on one collective and say, you know what? We're not doing this, this, and this until y'all get this right. And
hey, Mike,
in the meantime, like you said, you can put that money aside. You can still do that, but don't sit there and say that is the way. And these people who are continuously cashing in on us ain't got to do nothing.
No,
and we're going to keep working for them.
I mean, but Mike, what I'm saying is Ghost spoke to something that we fundamentally at some point have to step out on. He's saying if there are 2.5 million of us in this industry and everybody puts up $1 a month, for just one calendar year, you understand that's $30 million. And if people can do that for a year, which would literally cost everybody $12, and see that it turns into $30 million, like we got to get to the point of making those things come to actually to an actual state of happening in reality, so that we can actually see our power validated, because we don't understand our power, because we tie too much of our power to a white man structure here, which is tied back to the financial infrastructure. Let's show our people what they need to see to empower themselves.
Well, I guess asking just to ask, let's just say every artist did put money aside, right? Well,
$1.
Right. Who is in charge of that money, or what board is in charge of that money, and who decides on who gets what in a situation?
So what I've always wanted for hip hop is a real board of directors that govern an infrastructure and a plan for everybody in hip hop to take care of each other. If I had to pick one person that I would like to sit at the head of that board, I would pick Master P, Mike.
And how are you basing that?
I can't think of anybody in the history of this game that I would trust to teach financial wealth management and building to young blacks who are unaware and uneducated in those matters than him. He has the best resume.
I agree with you.
He has the best resume of getting it done. Best resume, get the job.
Well, who collectively decides who? No, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a lot of moving pieces on that level. But
no, Mike, we really need to get organized. Like, when you're in a union, you vote on these things. That's what I'm saying. It needs to get unionized and come to a vote. So these people who we keep naming, let's see if they actually put their name on the line. Like, because we talk about Jay, we talk about Jay Prince, we talk about Dre, we talk about Puff. Well, let's see if something like this were to occur, if they would actually step out and do it. Because for me, Mike, I think Jay Prince and Master P would. And after that, I think that shit get real shaky.
I was going to say, because a lot of people just have so many corporate ties that it's tough to really
Hey, Mike, they built all those corporate ties on this rap shit, so I don't want to hear that.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying, like, when you have those kind of dealings and then their current dealings and their current contracts, how do you know that they're going to do things that are in the best interest of the culture and not the corporation that they're still tied to?
Oh, no, Mike. There need to be checks and balances. Mostly, we need to be checking these niggas. Like we be like, no. You got to come to the barbecue every Sunday. Bring some potato salad.
But again, I like your choice of Master P and J Prince because they really aren't, tied to the majors in that way.
Don't nobody own them. Yeah, Mike. That's why I picked them. Don't nobody own them. They own shit.
I mean, I like Ice Cube too. You know what I'm saying? I like a lot of things Cube's doing.
Cube's a player. I would like Cube more than Dre.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and nothing against anybody. It's just that Dre's obligations are
right. Like Jimmy King. Right. Well, no, not even that, Mike. It's like, well, Jimmy don't have a seat at this table, Dre. So.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, like you say, have to unionize. And I don't know how the labels structure it. I've never signed a major record deal, but I guess they have it in a way where, there is no.
Fuck a label, Mike. I'm talking about us creating our own entity. Mike,
but I'm saying you're talking about the people that are in this rap thing actually being involved too. Like
the way that these plantation owners after slavery made State Farm and Allstate into multi-billion-dollar insurance entities. That's what I'm talking about.
About insuring slaves and all that. Yeah.
Right. Why don't we do that off our own backs? Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
I mean, you can't really tell somebody where to, put their money. So yeah, if everybody was able to collectively get together, people who are signed hip hop artists and say, look, after every show, I'm giving this to this. I think that's a good start. But I think the biggest part and the biggest part is going to be, okay, well, who's controlling this and why are you controlling this?
P. Because that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Who's going to indict him about money? Who has the authority in this hip hop rap sphere to teach P how to hustle, how to handle money, how to build out businesses? Who gonna check him?
I guess it would have to be a collective vote.
Right, but he's the one that should have the
You think that hypothetically?
How about this? I trust that check if his name on it.
Hypothetically, you think if P ran against Jay-Z for control of that pot per se, you think that the union members, which would be rappers and I guess producers or whatnot, you think they would vote for P over J?
Hasn't everybody seen what's happened with Beanie Siegel?
That's not what I'm asking.
I mean, how about this, Mike?
That's not what I'm asking.
Mike, if they were to vote J over P, based on the things that we've seen, we talking business, Mike.
But we're talking about.
Oh well, then we just.
It's politics now. You know what I mean? When you get an electoral process, who's going to be able to finesse the vote more?
Mike. Well, I'm gonna pull a W. We're going to have to do a recount in Louisiana. We're going to have to do a recount in Louisiana if Jay win.
You see how the East Coast bias is. Most of the MCs that ever came out of this shit are East Coast. You think they're gonna vote for P over J?
You just can't deny the work, Mike. It's business. That's what I'm saying. It's just like, because this is what I'm saying, Mike. When you talking about Jay and you talking about business, when you talking about all those corporations and all those corporate deals, it's like, no, this not that. Sit all them. Sit them all down outside of this room. Sit them down outside this room. Because here's the thing: these guys have enough financial wealth on their own. You don't need to step in with any of your corporation ties in order to make this deal shake amongst your peers. You built your corporation ties on this rap shit. Bring some potato salad and some macaroni and cheese, please.
Shannon Williams says, Mike and Coop, what y'all think about 50 Cent being mad about not being in the top 10 New York artists? But you know what? He's another name that, could be out there when we talk about, financial literacy and handling business.
You want to know what he's done? He's employed blacks, and a lot of them.
Who is that?
50.
50, yeah.
He's employed a lot of blacks.
Emlyn says rappers aren't intelligent. They're talented. They would choose Jay-Z due to popularity. I agree. I think they would choose Jay over fandom, popularity, and the fact that a lot of them are tied into him still via Rock Nation.
Man, you let Jay hold the money, we're gonna have a whole new island, and what's it gonna be called? Jay-Z Island.
Well, I mean, we voted Barack Obama in because he was cool. You know what I'm saying? So I think that
Mike, white people voted W in because he was cool.
So yeah, I don't think it's
Bill
above
Clinton got elected because
anybody's.
he was cool.
Yeah,
Mike,
I think
Ronald Reagan got elected because he was cool.
That's what I'm
John
saying.
Kennedy got elected because he was cool.
I think that people would vote
This shit
for
been
Jay-Z.
in play.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If there was a vote to like who's going to control this money and Jay-Z wanted in, I think he would win that. I'm just saying. If it was about a vote and a collective. But that's an interesting conversation. And I do want to talk about this 50 Cent thing. I'm not up to speed on that. Do you think that 50 deserves consideration when it comes to top 10 New York artists?
Like what? Like ever?
I think he's kind of
hip-hop like artists? Like top 10 hip-hop artists?
Yeah.
What he smoking?
He has a moment. That Get Rich or Die Trying is a monster.
Right. So like I'm gonna tell you, like Ghost said in the interview. No, you got niggas that got albums. We had errors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think 50 Cent's I guess moment capped off a little shorter than some of his contemporaries or people who were slightly before him?
He's not the consistently has an MC. He is as entertaining and as captivating as an A-list MC. Mm-hmm. But he's not an A-list MC in terms of his bars, Mike, and all the guys that he found himself in the stratosphere with. It's like, oh no, your bars don't hold weight next to those guys, so you need to keep making stuff like Get Rich or Die Trying, and that didn't happen. So that was that.
I think what made him big was the fact that, you know, he was different than most New York MCs, right? And I think at the end of the day and on the long term, that kind of went against him.
I mean, Mike, it's just like, you know, if you're an MC and you're coming out of New York and you garner the attention and the acclaim that he was garnering of having like the number one position in the game,
yeah,
dudes expect you to be able to spit a certain type of way. And I'm not talking about across the country, I'm talking about right at home. You from Queens.
I think what really hurt 52 is he really leaned on the numbers, right? And at his
That's
height,
what I'm saying, Mike.
He
it's
leaned
not about
on the
MCing.
numbers, and he did what he needed to do to continue those numbers. And I think that diminished where he could go as an MC, because I think he had the MC talent, but he continuously dumbed himself down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To appease the market.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So let's look at this right quick. He's talking about being a top 10 hip hop artist in New York. It's like nigga, let's keep it to Queens.
Is he not top? He's not top 5 in Queens.
Nas, LL, Prodigy, Cool G Rap ain't Run from Queens.
Listen, no. He's better than Run. You know, I saw that Run, too on the.
But if we're talking about all time, no, he's not better than Run.
DMC is better than Run to me.
As an MC, you're just talking. If he's talking as an MC, then he doesn't even need to be in this conversation top 10 because he doesn't fit. Because that would be
Run has a Get Rich or Die Trying by himself.
No, not that. Like Get Rich or Die Trying is one of the greatest moments in rap history.
Right.
It really, really is. It's one of the greatest moments in rap history. So I don't want to understate his moment. But if we're talking, I don't know if we're talking about MC or if we're talking about overall hip hop.
He said artist, or at least, you know, that's what Shannon said.
Yeah. So artist, Mike. So I'm gonna go to Run. It's like, well, has an artist Run's more important to this culture than 50? Look at the shit that they started. He was the front man for that. So I can't even put you ahead of Run.
I think Run DMC is important as a collective. I can't just give that to Run. I think that's unfair.
Okay, so that's fine. So if he's talking as a hip hop artist, so New York, right?
Yeah.
So Big J Nas, gone.
Okay. I thought you were just doing Queens, but okay.
Oh no. I mean, we can kind of keep it to Queens. If we're talking about overall hip hop artists coming out of Queens, yeah, Mike, he's gonna be top 5. But we talking about MC, barely making the top 10 out of Queens. Queens got arguably the best in Queens and Brooklyn and probably Philly are probably the three most lyrical MC heavy areas in the history of rap. Probably.
I got to give it to Brooklyn, man. Brooklyn is something else.
Yeah. Yeah, Brooklyn, Queens, and Philly come to mind when I think about lyrically like MCs over the duration of the hip hop sphere and the time that hip hop's been in formation. And so if we're talking hip hop artists coming out of New York, Mike, I mean, he's not better than DMX, Jay, Big, Nas, Kiss, Rakim, Kane, KRS, LL. You already out. I'm going to put Cool G Rap ahead of you. You know why? You can't spit like Cool G Rap on your best day.
Is he a better artist than Cool G Rap though?
He's a better songwriter than Cool G Rap. Okay. But Mike, he wouldn't last 5 minutes in a battle with Cool G Rap. That's what I'm saying, and we all know this. Mike, when 50 was taking shots at Nas literally said, "I don't take him seriously the way I take Jay seriously. It's not the same level." No,
that's warranted.
That's Nas saying that. That ain't no random dude saying that. Nas like, no, I don't take 50 shit the same way I take Jay shit. Jason, he pretty much saying like, no. If Jay talking about me, I need to be worried. 50 talking, not that worried. I'm Nas. That's who 50 is to those guys.
50's different, man. I think 50's different in kind of a Snoop Dogg type of way, right?
You think 50 better than Cameron?
I've always leaned towards Cameron as an MC.
So Cameron would be somebody that might be like on the back end of that top 10 or like in top 15. And I got Cam ahead of 50.
Cam's a game changer. Cam's a game changer.
Yeah, how about this? And Dipset had shit on lock longer than G-Unit and 50 did.
No, I agree. I think Dipset was a stronger movement.
It was. It was a better movement.
Yeah.
The music was
collectively. G-Unit was big, man. They did numbers. But a lot of that was... Look, Get Rich or Die Trying was a beast.
Right. Hold on. So, Mike, say that again. Get Rich or Die Trying did numbers.
No, they all did numbers, man. When Banks would drop, he would go gold in a week. Like, just being associated with 50 at that time. Like, Buck did numbers. Buck was doing crazy numbers for somebody coming out.
No. So, this is what I'm saying. Buck did crazy numbers initially because he was tied to 50, but there was the fact that album was great, so it kept going momentum. That's why Buck did better than Banks. The project and the product was better.
I don't put DMX over 50 Cent, no. I mean, I'm sorry, I do put DMX over 50 Cent.
Whoa, I was going to say we're about to have a problem.
No. I don't put 50 Cent over DMX. I read that backwards. Yeah. No,
Mike,
DMX
do you put
is 50 definitely.
Over Pun?
Huh? 50 over Pun?
Do you have him over Pun?
As an artist, yes. As a lyricist, no.
Okay, so definitely...
As an artist, I don't put 50 over DMX, though. What DMX did with Get Rich or Die Trying is crazy.
What DMX did with what?
Get Rich or Die... Nah, I'm sorry. My mind's all over the place. What DMX did with It's Dark and Hell is Hot, crazy.
Right. So that's why I would tell you, Mike, is like as much as I love Get Rich or Die Trying, and as much of a all-time great hip-hop moment it is, it doesn't supersede DMX and It's Dark and Hell is Hot.
No, that was... And I don't know if that was in more of my impressionable years or something, but that was a game changer, man.
That was a game.
And he didn't need a cosign to do it either. I mean, he was on some records, but he was an entity of his own.
Like, he stomped the glitter out the game.
He was somebody that when DMX dropped It's Dark and Hell is Hot, people in high school, and the high school I went to, he was top 10 off top for them. Like, yo, this is some of the best shit I've ever heard.
Mike, I preferred him to Cannabis even before their projects dropped.
He did something different. And I know we talk about that whole Beanie Siegel, Scarface, where you feel shit, Tupac, Kanye. DMX did that too.
Yeah.
Nobody was breaking out in prayer in the middle of records, man. Like.
So 50's not better than LL. We're clear about that, right?
Of course, we're clear on that, yeah.
Okay. It's not better than Rakim.
Nope.
KRS.
Nope.
Nas.
Nope.
Jay.
Nope.
Big.
Nope.
Cameron.
I mean, that's debatable for people, but, you can go to a heavier hitter than that.
We'll take him out of it for now. Yeah. DMX.
No.
Jadakiss.
No.
We're at 8 right now, Mike.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Did you say Kane?
I haven't said Kane yet. That's why I said we're at 8, Mike.
Yeah.
Kane. We're at 9.
What about Busta Rhymes? No?
Oh, I got Busta way ahead of him. 10. Yeah. Mike, I got Q-Tip ahead of him.
We didn't even go to the Wu-Tang yet. We didn't.
Mike, you better stop that. That's what I'm saying. What is he talking about, Mike?
Yeah.
Like, Mike, how about this? As an MC, where would he fall in the Wu-Tang if he were part of that crew? As an MC?
He'd definitely be in the back half.
Yeah, but where, Mike? He would be somewhere between, like, he'd be like before RZA.
Yeah.
So he'd be like 6 or 7.
Something like that, yeah.
In the clan.
Yeah, that's wild.
But top 10 all-time artists, New York, you'd be like 6th or 7th in Wu-Tang's lineup. That's like the dude who bats 7th for the best hitting team in the league, saying that he's one of the 10 greatest hitters of all time. It's like, dude, you bet 7th for the best hitting team in the league. It's like you're not even one of the 3 or 4 best hitters on your team. What are you talking about?
That Yankees team with Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth and
right.
Everybody.
It's like, no. I know Mickey and Babe and Lou Gehrig were there, but it's like you batted 7th though.
But yeah, man, was there any other things that you got from this interview that you didn't know?
Oh, the Tupac thing, when they brought up Pac, they brought up a whole conversation of loyalty and how Pac just didn't fuck with New York after that. Like, because they brought up, well, it kind of went a couple ways. And this is what I meant about Meth being a key figure. They kind of brought up, Meth was mad about the whole Purple Tape skit because he had an actual relationship with Big.
Yeah.
And so, they had kind of stuck Meth in the middle, and Ray was like, no, Meth was like genuinely like hot about it. Like, no, like that ain't like I didn't just and Ghost is like, no, we was young, we wasn't even thinking. Like, I'm 25 years old, we wilding out. And but then they talked about the Pac shit because Pac was because Meth is on I Got My Mind Made Up. And I realized how deep that shit went, Mike, because Ghost and Ray didn't know the name of the record. Every hip hop head knows I Got My Mind Made Up.
They don't listen to it.
But they don't listen to it. And I was like, oh, it's that real, like, Mike, and I told you this. No, I know cats from Brooklyn and from the Bronx and from Queens that, like, literally, like, when I would talk about Pac and, like, name his songs, it'd be like, I don't listen to that. I don't like how he did Big.
They were very loyal to New York. And I got that when they were talking about the Source Awards and they were talking about Suge Knight and what he had to say and how they were basically leaning with Bad Boy. And they ain't even really fucking with Bad Boy like that, right?
Right. So it's territorial like that. It's like y'all don't even like them niggas. You just got done clowning these niggas.
Yeah. He took the Puffy diss as a New York diss. It was like, no, he wasn't really talking to New York. He was talking to that dude.
But this Ghost we talking about too. You know how many run-ins Ghost ran down that he's had during this one interview? This Ghost, Yeah. Ghost will tell you, Ghost, like, I think different. So, but he spoke to the Pac shit and the loyalty thing. But Ray said something that was really striking. He's like, but he from here, that's that New York in him. He's like, that's in him still. Like, they're talking about his behavior. It's like, actually, if you look at it, he took that East Coast loyal behavior and went west with it. Because they're even talking about, it's like, imagine you in jail. Suge bailed that man out of jail. He's a loyal dude. He was like, so when you hearing him, they kept bringing up the whole California love and the whole Chucks and Bally's references, but they like, but he from here, but he's so loyal that if he gonna ride. And so they were talking about how, they was really saying in a nice way, nah, we didn't fuck with him. We didn't listen with none of the music, but we understand what type of loyal dude he was and why he didn't fuck with anybody from New York. And even they was talking about, it's like, he was even talking about, he was like, well, Pac was getting down with boot camp, so Meth probably wasn't even with Pac to do those records. He probably got that record from somebody from Duck Down, and just asked Meth for the okay. That's how Ray and Ghost kicked it.
Well, see, that record, from my understanding, was supposed to be
They called it that record. They said the record.
The record, yeah. My Made Up
They're not part of Bad Boy, Mike. That's some real East Coast shit.
Yeah. My Mind Made Up was, from my understanding, that was a Dog Pound record. And Method Man, Redman, and Inspector Deck did that for the Dog Pound album. And then, you know what I'm saying, and when Pac came out, it was all hands on deck and people were giving Pac their songs.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think that came from a boot camp session, but yeah. They're so New York.
Right. So, Mike, it speaks how tense those times were that here we are, like 2 decades removed from it. And I mean, these dudes are still in a place in their mind. They ain't listen to that record. Is on that record. Meth and Red is
Expected
like
Deck is on that record.
Deck is on that, right?
Yeah.
And they don't even know the name of the song. That was one of the most striking things about the interview. Was like Ray is like, yeah, I heard that joint. I'm thinking like, nigga, I heard the joint. It's like,
I
what?
heard that joint.
It's a classic song on one of rap's all-time classic rap albums with your man on it going crazy.
Well, it was interesting.
Hold on, Mike. Don't Meth have the best verse on there? If I'm not mistaken.
So. I think so.
Yeah. Fuck you losers. While you fake jacks, I make maneuvers like Mr. Stick. Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Crazy on there too. That's one of his better moments.
Yeah, he killed that joint. What did you think about what was I gonna say, man? Because we were just talking about Tupac, and they were very East Coast. Oh, Dog Pound. That's where my mind was. Sorry about that.
Right.
When he brought up Dog Pound, they kind of dismissed that, and I don't even think that's a great matchup for them per se. But I don't even know where that really came from, because I think Dog Pound's super dope. But I don't know if that's
super dope.
But who's the best matchup for Dog Pound though?
There's levels to this. The Dog Pound is great, and I love the Dog Pound. That's Ray and Ghost. That's like 2 top 20 MCs, like right there, sitting down in the room. So it's like you're not. They got that Wu-Tang shit too.
They were very nice about it, though. You know.
No, they were, Mike. They were surprisingly political and cordial for who we've known them to be most of their careers. In particular, Ghost.
Right. Like I said, the Action Bronson thing kind of took me aback. Well,
you know. That was one of the things, too, is that you realize how emotional Ghost really is. Because when he's explaining the Shark Biter skit, when he's explaining the Action Bronson thing, he's like, no, that just came out. That just happened. He's like, I ain't playing that or nothing. It's like, oh, man. Right. It's like Ghost really just be like ready to go in on niggas like at the drop of a dime.
Yeah, because he said he was looking for a studio to go in, say, with that Action Bronson thing. So they didn't have one. So they just, went live on it.
Oh, Mike, and he said that he's pretty certain. He said it's a little like hazy for him, but he's pretty certain after the whole shootout with the Delphonics. He's like, they're in a 15-passenger van following him and all that. He's like, after the smoke was clear, was recorded that night. Right, it's one of those things. And then you think about the song. The song's called After the Smoke is Clear. It's like they just got done busting their guns.
Craziness, man. Rockstar life. All right, so is there any other things that you got from the interview? I know it's long, and for people who haven't
Mike,
seen it,
it was 4 hours. It's 4 hours long. I tried to pull as all the highlights and all the touching points as that I could from it. Another thing that they talked about is just fighting for their independence, even from like within the group. And Ray even spoke to something when he really pretty much said like, "Well, I ain't gonna say too much about that. We here now, Yeah. And they had a nice conversation, like when they was doing the documentary about how Ray had said, like, like my kid's supposed to know your kids and like all that. So they had a moment at the end where everybody was like, and the last thing, Ghost right hand man, short for understanding, just came home from a quarter nickel bid. Yeah. All right. He was actually found innocent of the charges. So he just spent a quarter century in prison for murder that he didn't commit.
Yeah.
So they bought him on, and he just spoke to some things, and he said something very poignant that I didn't know that people need to realize. When these people who are been falsely convicted or accused, when it's getting overturned, he said they don't give you your innocence, they exonerate you. He said part of the reason why they do that is so you can't win the civil judgment, because once they give you your innocence, that pretty much stakes claim that you were done wrong and that there's nothing that they can do about it, which pretty much means you're going to win that civil judgment. They hit you with the exoneration to keep you from the money once again.
Dirty style.
America.
Well, on that note,
everybody
happy Thanksgiving.
Right. Everybody's saying that this is the greatest nation in the world. Like, I hate it when white people say that shit. It's some shit you don't hear black people saying, but whatever.
I mean, it's relative, right? It's relative to
66% of this population is white. Absolutely.
Well, also, I mean, I guess you would have to put forth proof from other nations why it would be better for a particular group over there. Because, I mean, there's definitely struggles all around.
No, Mike, I've traveled enough around this world and seen it. I get treated worse at home. I get treated like a king when I stay at my passport and I leave this country every fucking where I go. Colombia, Italy, France, Puerto Rico, like Dominican Republic, like you name it, Mike. Brixton in London, like yeah, everywhere I be. But here,
would you move there? I mean,
Mike, I'm highly considering getting some dual citizen. I'm actually this year I've actually been actively watching YouTube videos about places outside this country to live that are good for Black Americans. I've been doing some research for about 3 or 4 months, and in all reality, I can see myself in the next 5 to 10 years not living in this country full time. Absolutely.
Stevie did it. I think Stevie's in Ghana, right?
Something like W.E. You want to know why Stevie's in Ghana? Because one of his idols, who's also one of mine, W.E.B. Du Bois, that's where W.E.B. went when he left America.
Yeah.
About his views and his stances and the things that he was tired of. Right.
Definitely. Well, like I said, on that note, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We're probably going to, we're definitely going to skip Wednesday's show. I know that's right before Thanksgiving. We'll see what's coming out on Friday. If anything, we might have to re-up next week, but we'll see. We'll keep everybody posted. And we'll see what's happening in the culture. Yes, sir.
Mike, to quote the GOAT, y'all call it Thanksgiving. I call it Holiday Hell Day because I'm for poverty, neglected by the wealthy.
Well, we will see you guys next time. Nice Nas quote there. And I'm sure we're going to see some more of those Nas quotes on Thanksgiving as well. We always get those great ones.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.